I didn't expect the auction to feel so silent. There were voices, yes, low murmurs, clipped accents, numbers spoken like secrets, but underneath it all was a stillness that made my bones ache. I stood on a velvet-lined platform, wrists cuffed in front of me, head bowed because I'd learned by now that looking up was a mistake. Eyes could get you hit, could get you taken, could get you broken faster than any chain. I wasn't the first girl they'd paraded through that room. I wasn't the youngest or the prettiest or the most obedient. But I was the one they'd warned everyone about. Too sharp, too quiet, too dangerous. They thought I didn't hear them. I heard everything. They started the bidding low, like I wasn't worth much. And maybe I wasn't. I'd been moved from warehouse to warehouse. My records passed like currency between men who never remembered my name. They called me 4-2, because that's what I'd been tagged as. I used to have a name, a life, a laugh that didn't feel borrowed. I didn't remember it now. When they called her name, Lot 42, female, early 20s, unbroken, highly intelligent, suspected rebellion class, a hush settled over the room. Then a voice cut through it. Smooth, controlled. Female, 2 million. No one countered. Of course they didn't. Her voice didn't ask. It declared. Sold. Just like that. I was hers. They removed the cuffs. Not because they trusted me, but because no one fought once she paid. Her reputation walked ahead of her, clearing paths. I was led into a sleek black car. The driver didn't speak. She was already inside. I didn't look at her, not at first. I kept my eyes on my lap, hands clenched, heart hammering. But I could feel her gaze on me. Sharp, curious, heavy. If you enjoyed this content and want to support the channel in a special way, try clicking the thanks button below. It's the one with the heart and $sign icon. With super thanks, you can make a direct contribution to the channel, which helps me keep creating awesome videos for you. You're not afraid of me, she said. Her voice wasn't cruel, just observant. I said nothing. You should be. I looked up then, slowly. Her face was angular, elegant, too perfect to belong to someone who'd just bought another human being. Her suit was black, her lips red, her eyes a storm I wasn't ready for. Why? I asked. My voice sounded like it hadn't been used in days. She smiled. Because I don't like being disobeyed. Then don't give me orders. Her brow lifted. Interesting. What happens now? Now, she said, you come home with me, and we see what you are under all that defiance. I didn't answer, because I didn't know. I wasn't sure there was anything left of me worth discovering. Her estate was nothing like I imagined. Not a fortress. Not a prison. A glass house built into a cliffside, surrounded by trees and water and too much sky. It felt open, like I could run, like I might even get away with it. But I didn't run. She didn't lock any doors, didn't cuff me again. She showed me to a room, my own, with windows and soft sheets and a closet full of clothes in my size. I don't wear collars, I said. Then don't, she replied, already walking away. Wait. She stopped. Why did you buy me? She turned her head. Because no one else saw you for what you are. And what's that? Not broken. Just waiting to be chosen. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling, at the soft sheets, at the door that wasn't locked, at the moonlight on the floor that didn't feel like a cage. I waited for her to change, to hit, to scream, to demand. But she didn't. She gave me space. Food, books, music, silence. You can speak, she said once, pouring herself wine. You can say no. You can tell me you don't want to be touched. I'll listen. Why? I asked. Because I didn't buy you to own you. I bought you to save you. I didn't believe her. Not then. But I started watching her. Closely. The way she moved through the house. The way she poured her own coffee. The way she spoke to her staff, calm, fair, distant. The way she looked at me like she was trying not to fall. What's your name? She asked one night. I don't remember. Then I'll give you a new one. Why? Because you deserve something that belongs to you again. And what would you name me? She paused. Thought. Sarah. Why? It means will be. Not was. Not is. Just will be. I swallowed. What's your name? Callista. Why did you really buy me? Because I was once in a cage too. Different shape. Same silence. I didn't touch her. Not for days. Not even when she reached for me. Slowly, gently, like she was asking a question with her hands. But one night, I stood at her bedroom door and said, I don't know what this is, but I don't want to sleep alone tonight. She didn't move, just nodded, pulled back the covers, let me crawl in. We didn't speak, didn't kiss. She just held me. And for the first time in years, I felt like I might be real again. The next morning, I woke before her, watched her breathe. Calm, peaceful. And I knew something dangerous had started. She didn't want to own me. She wanted to love me. And worse, I was starting to want her to. I started sleeping in her bed. Not every night. Not always for long. But more than once I found myself drifting to the door of her room in silence, unsure if I was seeking safety or softness, or something else entirely. And each time, she let me in. No questions. No conditions. Just space. Just warmth. Just the quiet understanding of two women who had been hurt in different ways, learning to exist in a world that never gave them room to heal. Callista never touched me without invitation. She never reached first. But I began to notice how her eyes lingered when I wore her oversized sweaters in the morning, how her breath hitched when I sat too close on the couch. I started sitting closer on purpose. Started brushing her arm when I passed her in the kitchen. Started watching the way her jaw clenched and her hands twitched, like every cell in her body was fighting a war she hadn't admitted to yet. You're testing me, she said one night, her voice low, careful, as I leaned against the kitchen island in nothing but one of her shirts. Maybe. Why? Because I want to know if you're real. I'm here, Sarah. But are you real? She didn't answer. Just crossed the space between us slowly, deliberately, stopping inches away. What would you do if I touched you right now? I swallowed. I don't know. Then let's not find out. Not yet. She stepped back. I hated that I admired her restraint. Hated that I wanted to push her again. Hated that some twisted part of me felt powerful every time I made the woman who'd bought me question her control. But it wasn't a game. Not anymore. And the ache between us was turning into something I didn't have a name for. Something more than desire. Something sharper. I found myself opening up to her in pieces. I told her about the warehouse in Sector 5, where they kept the girls too loud to sell. I told her about the night I stopped speaking altogether, when they took my friend, and she never came back. I told her I used to write poetry, that I forgot how, that maybe I never really started. She listened. Always. Never interrupted. Never pitted. Just sat beside me with her hand close enough to take if I wanted it, and far enough not to demand. One morning, she found me in the library curled into the corner of the chaise with my knees to my chest. I hadn't slept. My dreams had teeth. Come here, she said gently. I didn't hesitate. I let her wrap a blanket around me, let her pull me into her arms. I buried my face in her shoulder and let the tears come. She didn't say anything, didn't shush me, just held me like someone who knew exactly how it felt to unravel in someone else's arms. You don't have to be okay, she said. Not here. Not with me. I think that's when I started falling. Not because she was kind, but because she saw through everything I wasn't saying and didn't flinch. That night, I reached for her. Not out of fear, but out of want. Out of the ache that had been building for days, for weeks, for however long it had taken me to stop seeing her as my buyer and start seeing her as my choice. We kissed. It was slow at first, testing, tasting. Her lips were warm, steady. She pulled back almost immediately. Sarah, please don't ask me if I'm sure. I was going to ask if you're safe.
Right now.
In this. I am. Then come here. I did. This time, she kissed me deeper. Her hands moved up my sides, under the shirt I wore, against skin that hadn't been touched in ways that didn't hurt for so long I forgot what it meant. Her touch was reverent. Like I was a scripture she was afraid to misread. "Tell me what you want," she whispered against my throat. "You. All of me. Even the parts you're scared of. Then take them." I did. We undressed each other in silence, breath by breath, inch by inch, until I was beneath her and around her and with her in a way I hadn't been with anyone in years, maybe ever. She didn't rush. She didn't command. She followed every shift of my breath, every gasp, every tremble like a map, and when I shattered under her hands, she held me together. We stayed wrapped in each other for hours, not speaking. There was no need. The next morning, she kissed the back of my shoulder like it was instinct, like I was hers. "You don't belong to me," she said quietly. "You never did." "Then why does it feel like I've been waiting to belong somewhere until you?" "Because I see you, and you see me. That's not ownership. That's recognition." "So what happens now?" "Now," she said, fingers trailing along my spine, "we rewrite everything they ever told us we couldn't have." And just like that, I wasn't lost anymore. I wasn't sold. I wasn't trapped. I was Sarah. I was hers. I was free. The days after the first time we made love passed slowly, like time itself had thickened. Everything between us shifted. Her touch became natural. Mine became instinct, and the silence that once filled the space between us had turned into something warmer. I began waking up with my head on her shoulder, and her arms slung across my waist like it belonged there. Sometimes she'd already be awake, watching me with that quiet, unreadable look on her face, the one I hadn't been able to decipher since the moment I met her. But she didn't speak the first time I caught her staring. She just reached up and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, then kissed me like she'd been waiting to do it since I fell asleep. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't about taking. It was about staying. And maybe that was the scariest part. I'd spent so long surviving that I didn't know what it meant to stay anywhere. To be wanted. To be chosen. To not have to run. But she didn't ask me to be anything. Didn't ask me to give her more than I had. Didn't expect smiles I couldn't fake or trust one couldn't offer yet. And that's why I started giving her all of it without being asked. I began cooking again. Small things, toast, tea, soup from a half-remembered recipe. She always ate like it was a gift, like she was grateful. I watched her read contracts in the mornings with her reading glasses low on her nose and her robe slightly open. I watched her come undone just from my fingers curling into her hand under the table. She watched me too. When I watered the plants. When I took long baths. When I stood by the window and whispered old poems under my breath, trying to remember who I was before they stripped everything away. "Do you want to talk about them?" she asked once, her voice low as she pulled me into her lap, her fingers tracing circles over my thigh. "The ones who took you." "No," I whispered. "Not yet." "That's okay." "You're not curious?" "Of course I am. But I'm more interested in who you're becoming than who they tried to destroy." I pressed my face into her neck, breathing in the scent of her skin. She always smelled like soft heat and the faintest edge of citrus, like luxury worn casually. She kissed the top of my head, held me tighter. Later that night, I sat on the floor of her office, legs crossed, watching her work. I wore nothing but her shirt. She didn't say anything about it, just glanced over every few minutes like she couldn't help herself. "How do you do it?" I asked. "What?" "Live with power and not let it consume you." She leaned back in her chair. "It did. For a while. Then I lost someone and realized all the power in the world couldn't bring them back." "Who did you lose?" "My sister." "I didn't know you had one." "I don't anymore. Not in the way that counts. She was sold. Like you." My breath caught. "Did you ever find her?" "No, and me?" "You reminded me of her. Not your face. Your silence." I moved to her slowly, climbed into her lap, cradling her face in both hands. "I'm still here." "I know. Do you think she would have survived this life?" "No." "She was fire. She would have burned everything down. Then maybe that's what we should do. Burn it all. She smiled softly. Starting where? With the contracts, the auctions, the names they gave us instead of letting us have our own. And how do we do that? Together. That night, we didn't touch in the way lovers do. We touched in the way soulmates do, slow, reverent, like our skin spoke truths neither of us could articulate out loud. I memorized the slope of her ribs. She kissed the scar behind my left knee. We whispered promises we weren't brave enough to write down. And when she whispered, "I love you," I didn't panic. I didn't flinch. I just said it back. Because it was true. Because no one had ever given me freedom and called it love at the same time.
She did.
The next morning, I told her I wanted to leave the estate. Not because I wanted to run, but because I needed to see the world again. "Where do you want to go?" she asked. "Anywhere. Somewhere with people. Music. A city that doesn't know my name." "You want to be invisible?"
No.
"I want to remember how it feels to exist." She took my hand. "Then I'll take you." We went to a small town on the coast. No one recognized her there. No one stared at me like I was stolen. We walked along the market, ate oranges on the sidewalk, bought scarves from a woman who said my name like it mattered.
Sarah.
Not 42. Not property. Not object. Just Sarah. That night, we danced in a small bar with dim lights and strangers who didn't care who we were. She held me close. I laughed against her mouth. She kissed me until I forgot what pain tasted like. Back in the hotel, she laid me down like I was sacred. She loved me like it was survival. And when I cried in her arms after, she didn't ask why. She just held me and whispered, "I'll never let them have you again." "You don't own me," I said, voice shaking. "No," she agreed, kissing my tears. "But I choose you. And you choose me. Every day." That's stronger than ownership. I believed her. For the first time in years, I believed in something. Not because I had to, but because love in her hands didn't feel like a trap. It felt like a door. One she held open every time I got too scared to walk through it alone. We came back from the coast different. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. But the way Callista took my hand in the car, the way her thumb brushed over my skin like it belonged there, told me we weren't going back to how things were. And I didn't want to. I'd tasted freedom. I'd danced in a place where no one knew my name. I'd kissed her in the street without fear. And now, the estate walls felt tighter than ever. I didn't say anything the first few days. I settled back into routine, slept tangled with her in silk sheets, made breakfast in the mornings, watched her read reports by the fire while her bare feet curled under her. But something inside me had shifted. Restlessness. Anger. Not at her, but at the world that still existed outside these walls. The world that would have let me rot in a cage. The world that had taken her sister. "What are you thinking about?" she asked one night, fingers tracing idle patterns along my spine. "Justice," I said. "Revenge." "Not quite." "Say more." I sat up, pulled her shirt tighter around my body. "You have power, money, influence. You could expose them. And risk you being hunted down for speaking? They already hunted me. I want them to see me now." She watched me for a long time. "I thought you wanted peace. I want purpose more. And if they come after you again, then we burn the whole thing down." The next day, she didn't go into the city. Instead, she brought me to her private study, opened locked cabinets, pulled out files. "These are records from the private transactions. I've been collecting them since I bought you." I stared at the documents. Names, codes, ages, transactions. "You kept all this?" I told myself I was protecting myself, but I was waiting for someone brave enough to do what I couldn't. "You're brave. Not like you." That night, we didn't make love like we usually did. We made love like the world was ending.
Fast. Fierce. Raw.
Her fingers gripped my thighs like she needed to anchor herself to something real. I kissed her like I wanted to leave my name in her mouth. When I collapsed against her, breathless and shaking, she whispered, You're the bravest thing I've ever touched. I held her tighter. Then come with me. Let's make this count. She agreed. 3 days later, we met with a journalist. Off record. No cameras. Just a name Callista trusted from her past, someone who used to believe in good before the world chewed it out of her. The woman listened, took notes, asked questions. When I told her my real name, my birth name, the one I hadn't spoken in years, her hands trembled. You want this public? She asked. Yes. You understand the risk? Yes. And her? She asked, nodding toward Callista. What happens to you when they realize you funded the entire system just to dismantle it? Then they'll know exactly what I'm capable of, she said, eyes hard as steel. We left the meeting quiet, not afraid, just bracing. That night, Callista poured us whiskey and sat across from me on the couch, her legs tucked under her, her face bare. No makeup, no armor. You don't have to love me after this, she said. Don't say that. I'm risking everything. So am I. But you've already lost before. I haven't. Then I'll teach you how to survive it, like you taught me how to be seen.
She didn't cry,
but her eyes softened. Sarah, I never meant to fall in love with you. I didn't think I could. Then let's keep doing the impossible together. I leaned in, kissed her, not hungrily,
not sadly, just deeply, like a vow.
Like we were already standing in the fire and refusing to let go. When the article came out, everything shattered.
Names.
Photos.
Codes.
My story. Her funding trail. The way she used her wealth to undo the very thing it was built on. There were threats. Phone calls in the middle of the night. People following us for days. But we didn't stop. More survivors came forward. More women who had been sold. More witnesses who saw what the system did and finally had a face to believe in.
Mine. Hers. Ours.
The estate became a refuge. Not just for us, but for others. 1 girl. Then 3. Then 9.
We took them in. Fed them. Housed them.
Let them sleep without locks. Some stayed. Some left. All were changed. And through it all, Callista never let go of me. Not when my nightmares returned. Not when I screamed at the world. Not when I told her I wasn't ready to be a symbol. Then be a woman, she said. Be mine. Be yours. Be free. And you. I'll just be the one who stands beside you. One night, we stood at the edge of the cliff behind the house, wind in our hair, watching the stars break open the sky. You remember when I asked you if you were real? I said, yes.
You are.
And you made me real too. Sarah, she said softly, what do you want now? Everything. Then take it. I turned to her. With you. She kissed me like the answer she'd been waiting her whole life to give. And I knew we had already begun. We didn't sleep for 2 nights after the article dropped. Callista moved through the house like a storm held in a glass, perfectly contained but ready to shatter. I watched her take calls in hushed tones, watched her fingers tap against her phone in that impatient rhythm that meant she was holding back something fierce. I stayed quiet at first. Let her handle it. Let her play the role she'd perfected for years. The calm, calculating woman with fire in her mouth and ice in her blood. But by the 3rd day, when the front gate was lined with journalists and drones hovered above the trees, I walked into her office and said, "You don't have to do this alone." She looked up slowly. "I started this. I'll finish it." "We started this," I said. "And you don't have to keep being the weapon. You get to be the woman too." Her shoulders dropped slightly. I walked to her, placed a hand on her back, felt the tension humming beneath her skin. They want to make you the villain because it's easier than accepting a rich woman burned her empire for the girls they never thought were worth saving. And what do they want to make you? A symbol, a sob story. But I'm not either. What are you then? I leaned in. I'm the girl who was sold and still learned how to love again. I'm the girl who watched the world try to kill her softness and chose to be tender anyway. I'm the girl who chose you. She turned in the chair and pulled me into her lap like she couldn't hold the distance any longer. Her arms wrapped around my waist, and her forehead pressed into my chest. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Good. That means it matters. They want to subpoena me. Then let them. It could destroy everything. Then let it. Sarah, you said you wanted to give me my freedom. So let's live like we already have it." That night, we didn't make love. We laid in bed, holding each other like lifelines, whispering old fears and future dreams into the space between our lips. I told her I wanted to build a school for girls like me. She told me she wanted to leave the country someday, just for a while, and see who she was without the empire. "We could go together," I said.
Be anonymous.
"Be ours. And if they follow us, let them watch us be free." The next day, 3 more girls arrived. Callista's lawyers worked nonstop, finding legal loopholes, cutting through bureaucratic rot. Her estate became a shelter, a symbol, a target. But we kept going. We hired staff who believed in what we were doing. We trained women to defend themselves. We built rooms that didn't have locks. We painted the walls with colors we chose together. And slowly, the fear began to lessen. One night, after everyone was asleep, I found Callista on the roof, wrapped in a blanket, a half-empty glass of wine in her hand. "You're up late," I said. "So are you." Couldn't sleep. Me either. I sat beside her. She handed me the glass. I took a sip. It was dry, bitter, expensive.
"We're actually doing this," she said.
"I know. And you're still here." "Of course I am. You don't owe me loyalty. I owe myself this life. This love. You just happen to be brave enough to build it with me." She turned toward me. "You really love me? You still don't believe it?" "Some days I do. Some days I look at you and think I must have done something good to deserve this. And some days, I think it's a dream." "It's not a dream." "Then promise me you'll still be here when they come for everything." "They already did. And I'm still here." "You're the best thing I've ever ruined myself for." "You didn't ruin yourself. You rebuilt yourself. And I got to love the version of you that rose from the ashes."
She kissed me then.
Long, desperate, full of everything she couldn't say out loud. We went back inside and undressed each other like it was the first time again. My shirt hit the floor. Her fingers traced every scar. My mouth found the edge of her collarbone. Her breath hitched. And we made love on the rug, in the dark, with the windows open and the world be damned. The next morning, a letter arrived. Official. Sealed. She read it in silence, then handed it to me. "They want to put me on trial," she said. "For what?" "Funding an illegal resistance. For harboring trafficked women." "And you?" "I want to go." "You want to stand trial?" "I want to be seen. Fully. I want the world to hear me say I did it, and I'd do it again. For you. For all of them. I'll go with you." "I wouldn't ask that. I'm not asking permission." She looked at me. "I love you." "Say it again." "I love you." "Then let's do this. Together." "They might try to destroy me. Then let's show them what happens when a woman has nothing left to fear." We held hands the day she walked into the courtroom. Cameras flashed. Voices screamed. She didn't let go. I didn't flinch. And somewhere deep inside me, I knew this was only the beginning. The courtroom didn't smell like justice. It smelled like cold air, old money, and polished wood. Callista stood beside me in a tailored navy suit, her posture perfect, her chin lifted like a woman used to being watched, judged, feared. I wore black. Simple.
Clean.
Not because I wanted to blend in, but because I wanted the world to see my face, my eyes, my presence. I wanted them to remember the girl they sold and the woman she became. When the judge entered, I didn't flinch. When the cameras snapped, I didn't blink. When they called her name, Callista Vale, accused of conspiracy, subversion, and unlawful disruption of the National Commerce Network, I held her hand. She didn't let go. "Do you plead guilty to all charges?" "Yes," she said. "Clear. Steady. And do you have anything to say in your defense?" "Only that I would do it again."
And again.
until a system that made girls like her into numbers is dust. The gallery stirred. The prosecutor tried to cut her off. The judge raised a hand. Let her speak. Callista continued. You can try to punish me.
You can strip my assets.
You can threaten me with exile or silence or prison. But you cannot make me regret giving women like Sarah a place to breathe, a place to exist, a place to remember their own names. I saw the way the room shifted. Some leaned forward. Some pulled back. Some looked at me for the first time like I was something more than evidence. You bought her, the prosecutor said later. You used your wealth to circumvent the laws and obtain a human being. Yes, Callista said, but I didn't keep her. I gave her a choice. I gave her a door, and she walked through it, back to me. You exploited the same system you claim to despise. And then I destroyed it from the inside. Why her? The question hung in the air. Callista turned her head toward me. Because she made me want to be better than the world that raised me. Because she loved me before I knew how to be soft. Because she never once asked me for anything but truth. So, this was personal? It still is. My chest tightened. I didn't cry. I wouldn't. But her words felt like fire in my ribs. That night, back at the estate, she sat in front of the fire without saying a word. I joined her, curled up beside her, let her wrap her arm around my shoulders. You were perfect today, I whispered. I didn't care about being perfect. You were anyway. You looked fearless. I was terrified. No one saw that. You did. I looked up at her. They'll never be able to unhear what you said. I hope it haunts them. And if they take everything, then they take everything. They won't take you. I touched her face. You have me, no matter what. She leaned in, kissed me, long, slow, like a woman tasting victory and loss in the same breath. We slept wrapped around each other like armor. When morning came, news had spread. Protests, petitions, survivors speaking out. For the first time, it wasn't just our voices. It was a chorus. On the 5th day of the trial, the prosecution tried to paint me as naive, broken. You were a victim, they said. You were manipulated by a wealthy woman who made you feel indebted. I stood.
No.
I was saved by a woman who gave me back what you all tried to erase. And what was that? Myself. I looked at Callista, and then she gave me more than freedom. She gave me love. The judge watched me carefully. Do you believe this woman deserves punishment? I believe the ones who sold me do. The ones who funded the trade. The ones who wrote the laws to make it legal. And Ms. Vale. She deserves to walk out of here and go home with me. The silence after was absolute. Then the judge cleared her throat. This court recognizes that the law is flawed. That this case is not about justice, but about change. Ms. Vale, your sentence is lifted pending official review. Your assets will be limited for the duration of the investigation, but you are free to go. She exhaled. I reached for her. We walked out of that courtroom side by side, hands linked, not smiling, not victorious, resolute. That night, we didn't speak much.
We poured wine,
played records, danced barefoot in the living room. She held me close, her cheek pressed to mine, and whispered, "We did it." "No," I said. "We're just getting started. What happens now? We keep telling the truth. Even if it's hard, especially then." She kissed me like a future. Like every promise that had ever been broken was rewriting itself between our mouths. Later, in bed, she whispered, "You made me brave. You made me believe. I still don't know what I did to deserve you. You stopped trying to own me. You started choosing me." She pulled me on top of her. I straddled her waist. We didn't rush. We undressed like a ceremony. She kissed the inside of my wrist. I kissed the hollow of her throat. Our bodies moved like we were learning each other all over again. And when I fell apart under her hands, I cried, not from fear, but from the overwhelming truth that I was finally, irrevocably mine. And she was mine too. The first week after the trial felt like breathing underwater. The pressure hadn't vanished. It just shifted. Instead of legal threats or public shame, there were questions, articles, books being written, documentaries proposed. People who once turned their faces away now wanted to be close, to say they were part of the movement. It felt dirty. I didn't want to be anyone's symbol. I didn't want to be palatable. I just wanted to exist beside the woman who taught me how. Callista sensed it. She always did. She kept the press out, shielded me with a strength so quiet it felt like grace. But she never spoke for me. She never used my voice like it belonged to her. Instead, she built me a space at her side and waited for me to claim it. We spent mornings in the garden. She liked to watch me kneel in the dirt, sleeves rolled up, sun on my neck. "You look alive here," she said once. "You make me feel like I am," I said. She didn't reply, just leaned down and kissed the corner of my mouth. In the afternoons, we read. She'd stretch out on the chaise and I'd curl into her side with my head on her chest and her fingers moving slowly through my hair. At night, we touched like it was holy, not always soft, sometimes rough, sometimes wordless, but always honest, always chosen. One night, I woke up shaking. The dream had been bad, shadows, chains, a voice I thought I'd forgotten whispering my old number over and over again. 42, 42, 42. I sat up, cold sweat on my spine, my hands clenched. Callista stirred instantly. "Sarah? I'm fine. You're shaking." I said I'm fine. "You don't have to be." Her voice was low, gentle. It cracked something in me. I hate that I still feel like I belong to them sometimes. "You don't. I know. But my body doesn't always believe it." "Then let me remind you." She pulled me close. Not for sex. Not for comfort. For presence. For proof. We laid there chest to chest, breath to breath. "You're not a number," she whispered. "You're not a secret. You're not a symbol. You're Sarah. And I'm so in love with you, I forget how to speak when you smile at me. Even when I'm sweaty and terrified at 3 a.m.? Especially then." I laughed into her neck. "You're ridiculous. You're free." That still feels ridiculous some days. Then we'll keep learning how to live with it. That morning, we announced something together. Not a press statement. Not a public performance. Just a soft video filmed on a phone, posted without warning. Callista looked straight into the camera and said, "We didn't burn down the world to be applauded. We did it to rebuild it. And we're not finished." I said, "My name is Sarah. I'm not a code or a case. I'm a woman, a survivor. And I'm in love with the one who gave me back my voice." The response was immediate, some furious, some reverent, some begging for more. But I didn't care. We said it. Together. After that, everything changed again. We were invited to speak at a university. Callista hesitated. "You don't have to do this if it doesn't feel right," she said. "It doesn't feel safe," I said. "But it does feel true." The night before the event, we didn't sleep much. We made love on the floor, slow and silent, our hands memorizing what our mouths already knew. After, she pulled me against her, kissed the back of my neck, whispered, "You still amaze me. You still undo me. I don't want to be careful with you anymore." "Then don't. I want to live out loud." "Then scream." The next day, we stood on stage together. She in a dark suit, I in white. Not for innocence, but for reclamation. She told the story of her sister. I told the story of the girl who lost her name. And then I said, the first time I ever felt free was the moment she told me I didn't have to love her back, that I could leave, that the door was open. I looked at her, and I stayed. Not because I owed her, not because she rescued me, but because I loved her more than I feared myself. Callista took my hand, kissed my knuckles in front of everyone, and the room stood up, not with applause, but with silence, respect, reverence, and maybe a little hope. That night, back at the estate, she pressed me against the window in our bedroom, kissed down my throat, murmured, "You were everything today. I was yours. You always are." We didn't speak again. We just moved together, bodies tangled in golden light, our love no longer quiet, no longer ashamed. And when she came apart beneath me, gasping my name like it was prayer, I knew we hadn't just survived. We had begun again. It wasn't the noise that got to me. It was the quiet. After the speeches, the protests, the whirlwind of headlines and hate and hero worship, the silence returned. Not the sharp silence of cages and cold rooms and locked doors. A different one. A full one. The silence of being left alone. Of not being needed to bleed publicly anymore. It should have felt like peace. And sometimes it did. Mornings with Callista were softer now. She made coffee for both of us without asking how I liked it because she already knew. I left little notes around the house. She collected them in a drawer she thought I didn't know about. Sometimes I'd catch her reading them when she thought I was asleep. They were simple. You're the calm after every storm I thought would kill me. You make me want to grow roots. I love the way you say my name like it's sacred. We didn't talk about forever. We didn't need to. We had today. And that had always been the dream. But one night, I found her in the library, sitting on the floor beside an open box I'd never seen before. She didn't look up, just said, "Do you ever feel like the world is waiting for us to fall apart?" I sat down beside her. Sometimes. But I think they're going to wait a long time. She opened the box wider. Inside were old photos. Her as a child. Her sister. A woman with the same eyes. Their mother. "I didn't want you to see this before," she said. "Why?" "Because I was someone else back then. You still are someone else. Every day. And I love every version." She pulled out a letter. Yellowed. Unreadable in places. She left this before they took her. My sister.
It's messy.
Rambling. But she wrote one line that I memorized. What was it? Callista met my gaze. "Don't be the storm that destroys them all. Be the fire that lights the way for one." My throat closed. She knew. She always knew. And you've been trying to be that fire ever since. I was just trying not to go dark. You didn't. You found me. Or you found me. That night, we lit candles instead of turning on the lights. We undressed each other slowly, reverently. My dress slipped to the floor. Her shirt followed. She laid me down on the couch like we had nowhere to be, but inside each other. Her hands moved over me like a song she'd never stop singing. Her mouth mapped places no one else had ever been allowed to claim. When I came undone, I cried. She didn't ask why. Just held me tighter, kissed my face, whispered, "You're still free." "I'm still yours," I whispered. "And I'll never hold that like a chain," she said. The next morning, we drove to a piece of land outside the city. Flat. Untouched.
Silent.
She handed me a folder. "What's this?"
Deeds.
"Blueprints. Permits." "For what?" "For you." I flipped through the papers. It was a school. A home. A center. For girls like me.
For those who survived.
For those who needed somewhere to begin again. I looked at her. "You did this." "We did." "Why?" "Because I wanted to give you more than love. I wanted to give you legacy. Callista, and I wanted to build something where no one would ever be sold again. Not on my watch." I ran into her arms, folder falling to the ground. She caught me like she always did. We kissed, laughing and crying at the same time. "Do you think it's possible?" I asked. "It already is." That night, we stood in the empty space where the building would rise. No roof yet. No walls. Just us and the stars above. "Do you ever miss who you were before me?" she asked. "No," I said, because that girl was still trapped. And you were the first person who said I didn't have to be. I wasn't sure I could love someone like you. Someone broken?
No.
Someone real. And now I can't imagine loving anyone else. I reached for her hand. "Then let's build it. All of it. The home. The life. The world we needed and never had. With you," she whispered. "Only with you." We kissed under the sky like no one was watching. Because for once no one was. It was just us. And the quiet. and the life we were finally brave enough to start. The foundation was poured within 3 weeks. The plans were already approved, the funding secured, the community growing. What began as a quiet promise between two women who had every reason to hide had become something louder, stronger. The Freedom House, they started calling it. A place for girls who had nowhere to go. A place for women who'd been turned into inventory and now wanted to reclaim their names, their stories, their future. Callista refused to let anyone else lead the build. She was there every morning in boots and rolled sleeves, walking the perimeter, reviewing blueprints, brushing dirt from her palms like she wasn't the same woman who used to sit at marble tables in glass towers giving orders worth millions. And I documented everything. I interviewed survivors who chose to be seen. I wrote the beginnings of a book I never thought I'd be brave enough to imagine. Some nights, I sat at the desk overlooking the field and just watched her, saw the strength in her back, the line of her jaw, the way her presence seemed to keep the sky still. We still touched each other like the world could end at any moment. We still kissed like it had already ended and come back around just for us. And every night, she still reached for me first. "You're too good at watching," she whispered one night as I hovered above her in bed, fingers tangled in her hair. "You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen," I whispered back. "You make me feel like I'm real," she said. "You are. You make me want to cry and bite you at the same time. So, do both."
She did.
Slowly, carefully, like I was holy. I think I became holy in her arms. That's what it felt like. But not all ghosts vanish just because you close the door. One morning, I found a letter on the kitchen counter. No name, no return address, just a sentence typed in cold, familiar font. "You're not untouchable." My hands trembled as I read it again. And again. I didn't wake her right away. I just stood there, shaking, staring at the lie of safety I'd let myself believe. But Callista knew me too well. She appeared in the doorway 5 minutes later, her voice low, alert. "What happened?" I handed her the letter. She read it once, then set it down gently. "This isn't real," I said. "Someone is trying to scare us." "It's working. Do you recognize the format?" she asked. "Yes." "From before?" "Yes." She took a breath. "Then they're still watching." "We knew this might happen." "I know, but knowing doesn't make it easier." That night, she held me tighter than usual.
Didn't ask me to speak.
Just kissed my forehead and whispered, "If I could put the entire world between you and harm, I would." "You already did," I said. "You gave me a place to grow." "They won't take it." "I won't let them. Neither will I." The next day, we added cameras. Hired security. Not because we were weak, but because we'd finally built something strong enough to protect. Something worth defending. The women in the house noticed the shift. "Are we in danger?" One of them asked me gently. "No," I said. "But the system we broke is angry. And if they come for us, then they'll meet all of us together." That night, Callista made love to me like she needed to memorize every inch of my skin. Like the memory of me might have to be enough if anything went wrong. I stopped her, held her face in both hands. "We are not a tragedy," I said. "Don't touch me like you're preparing to lose me. Then tell me how to touch you, like I'm permanent."
She did.
And I touched her like I believed we'd still be doing this when our hair turned silver and our hands had softened with time. We kissed under the moonlight, then again under the sheets, then again in the hallway, barely able to make it to the bed. We kept finding each other, every hour, every moment, like our love was the thread holding the world together. A week passed, then another. The threat never materialized, but the fear lingered like smoke after a fire. And still, we built. We hired more women, taught them to teach, paid them to heal, made rooms full of soft light and fresh linen and windows that opened. We made the opposite of a prison. We made a beginning. One afternoon, I stood in the center of the main hall, bare beams, exposed wood, sun pouring in through wide frames, and whispered, "We did it." Callista stepped behind me, arms wrapping around my waist.
No, she said.
You did it. You made it possible. You made it real. I turned in her arms. Marry me, I said. Her eyes widened. What? I know we said we didn't need that we were already everything. But I want to stand in front of all the people we saved and say, this is the woman who saved me right back. She didn't answer, just kissed me, long, fierce. Then she whispered against my lips, yes. Yes, I'll marry you. Tomorrow?
Now.
We didn't wear white. We didn't invite the press. We just walked barefoot into the main room with 5 women who once thought they'd never laugh again standing as witnesses. We said vows we wrote in ink-stained notebooks. I said, I never thought freedom would look like your arms. She said, I never thought I'd survive long enough to hold love in both hands. We kissed. We cried. We laughed. And when she carried me out under the unfinished archway, I knew we had everything. Not because it was perfect, but because we chose each other. Over and over and over again. The day after we got married, the sky opened up like it had been holding its breath just for us. Rain fell in soft waves against the glass windows of the Freedom House, and for the first time in months, no one had anything urgent to fix. No crises. No headlines. No fires. Just the sound of thunder rolling through the trees and Callista humming in the kitchen while she made tea. I watched her from the doorway, wearing nothing but her shirt and bare legs, her hair pinned up, a smudge of flour on her cheek from the cinnamon bread she decided to make for no reason at all. She looked gentle, and still mine. Not because I owned her, because she chose me. Again. I walked up behind her, wrapped my arms around her waist, pressed my mouth to the space between her neck and shoulder. You're staring again, she said, smiling. Can you blame me? You married me yesterday. The mystery's gone. No, I said, tightening my hold. It's just beginning. We spent that whole day inside. We canceled every meeting, turned off our phones, let the staff handle what they could. Everyone understood. Everyone smiled. We spent hours on the couch with blankets and books and each other. She read out loud while I curled against her. I kissed her knuckles, her collarbone, the hollow of her throat. She ran her fingers down my spine like she was still memorizing it. At one point, she looked at me and said, I never thought I'd get this. This? A life that doesn't hurt. A woman who doesn't leave. I kissed her softly. Neither did I. But we're here. Do you think it'll last? Yes. Even after the next storm? Especially then. Even when I get old and grumpy and intolerable, I look forward to it. And if we fail, then we fail together. That night, she made love to me like she was rewriting every story that ever ended too soon. We lit candles. We moved slowly. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. Her hand said it all. Her mouth traced every promise. She whispered my name like it was the only word she trusted. I kissed her like I was anchoring both of us to the present. When we finished, breathless and shaking, I didn't cry this time. I just laid there with her, my hand on her heart, hers on mine, both of us beating steady, steady, steady. The next morning, the sun came back. We sat outside on the deck of our real home, not the house that had once been a hiding place, but the one we built beside the Freedom House. One story, wide windows, nothing fancy, just safe, just ours. Do you think the world will let us be quiet now? I asked. No, Callista said, sipping her coffee. But we'll teach it how. What about the girls? They're becoming women. Because of you. Because of us. Do you think they'll be okay? I think they'll be extraordinary. Do you think I will? You already are. I leaned into her shoulder, listening to the wind. Some days I still hear it. The number? The voice. And what does it say? That I'll never be more than what they made me. Then let me say something louder.
She turned to me,
took my hands. You are not what they made. You're what you survived. You're what came after. You're the reason I believe in starting over. In healing. In home. I bit my lip. You're getting sentimental. I'm allowed. I'm married to you now. So what's next? We build. We love. We stay. And the past. We let it rest. We already buried it. You're sure? I'm sure of you. That's enough. Later that afternoon, a girl arrived at the gate. Alone. Barely 18. Dirty backpack. Quiet eyes. One of the staff brought her to us.
She didn't speak.
She just held out a piece of paper. It had one word.
Please.
I opened the gate, took her hand, led her inside, showed her a room with clean sheets and windows that opened. When I turned around, Callista was standing in the doorway, watching.
Soft. Strong.
And for the first time, I realized we were no longer the broken ones. We were the builders now. The home. The fire. The proof. That night, we laid in bed with the window cracked open and the scent of rain returning. She pulled me close. I rested my head on her chest. We did it, I whispered.
No, she said.
You did. We both did. Then promise me something. Anything. That we'll never stop choosing this. I promise. Even when it's hard. Especially then. She kissed me. One more time. 1,000 more times. I stopped counting. Because we weren't surviving anymore. We were living.
Loudly. Softly.
Freely. And together. Thank you so much for your support, whether it's by liking, commenting, sharing, or sending your super thanks. You make all the difference here on the channel. See you in the next video.